What makes a Nazi? How does he get that way? Well, let's look into the process.
In the late 1930s, the world was catapulted into one of the most significant wars in history. World War II, lasting from 1939 to 1945, goes down as the biggest and costliest of any war ever fought before. With over 23 million casualties of soldiers and approximately 40 million civilian deaths alone, World War II had a tremendous effect on the world and remains as a significant part of history in our hearts and minds today. At the center of the conflict was the rise of two government movements, one being communism and the other fascism. Nazism, a branch of fascism, was growing more and more popular in Germany, as the overall goal of the party was to strengthen the government and recover from economic troubles caused by World War I. The leader and totalitarian ruler who came to Germany's rescue in this time of desperation was, of course, Adolf Hitler. The Master Race Theory, Action versus Enactment.
How do I identify Adolf Hitler? I identify him as one of the most negative, egregious personages in history.
Adolf Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889 in Braunau am Inn, Austria. He moved to Germany when he was 3, and from there, his interest in German nationalism was born. After being rejected from a famous art school as an aspiring painter, Hitler decided to enlist in the German army when World War I began. After losing the war in 1918, Hitler felt animosity towards the Allies for using the Treaty of Versailles to punish Germany for the damage from the war. While in Munich, he became the leader of the Nazi Party and adopted the swastika from ancient Hindu and Roman culture as the party's universal symbol. In 1923, Hitler unsuccessfully attempted to overthrow the German government and was forced to imprisonment for a little less than a year. During his time there, he wrote the first volume of Mein Kampf, translated into English as My Struggle, a book that outlined his plans for German society as a one-race empire.
Some people call him a monster. In my opinion, he was like a diabolical genius of sorts.
Wenn der Führer says, wie ist der Master Race? Die Heil, Heil, right in the Führer's face, not.
When Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933, the Aryan people welcomed him with open arms.
Der stellvertretende kommandierende General und
In this position, Hitler used the desperate status of the German economy and the low morale of the people to his advantage, as he began taking steps to control and was gaining popularity quickly. It was 1934 when the German president died, and since Hitler became head of state and head of government as a result, his first decrees were that of impending war.
Wer sie geschmäht hat, hat uns geschmäht. Wer sie vergewaltigt hat, hat uns vergewaltigt.
Happy in his place as Der Führer, or the leader as it is in English, he began mobilizing and expanding Germany's army to prepare them for fighting revenge-inspired battles. Hitler was also able to raise German morale and eventually convince the people of the country to act upon and believe in an ideology known as the Master Race Theory. The Master Race Theory was Hitler's assumed but personally broadcasted idea that the people of pure Aryan race were superior to any other kind of human being. The philosophy included the development of a racial hierarchy in which pure Aryans, partially tainted Europeans with dark hair and olive skin, Southern Europeans like French and Hispanic races, and dark-skinned indigenous peoples were placed from top to bottom, respectively.
This whole thing in terms of the Nazi people actually being God-giving leaders to take over the world. He really believed it, and the tragedy is he was able to convince a lot of other people.
Aryan members in Germany, those who were of Northern European descent, were at this time motivated and brainwashed by Hitler's theory, just as he had planned.
The world belongs to the strong
Und dem Brutalen!
and to the brutal.
Die anderen Völker werden unsere Sklaven sein.
Germans are a super race. All others will be slaves.
Wir sind unübertrefflich. Wir fürchten niemand.
Germans are unconquerable. They fear no one.
As he fought and took away these individual rights, people would fight, but he would say, but this is for the better good.
This superior race was intended, by Hitler's design, to rule Germany, then Europe, and go on to rule the rest of the world during the Nazi 1,000-year Reich. In his quest for Aryan supremacy, Hitler implemented and exercised certain programs and techniques to aid in the conservation of blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pure members of the master race. Hitler's use of propaganda was especially effective, in that his pro-Nazi and anti-Semitic material, such as posters, speeches, and young educational resources, were extremely convincing and ultimately destructive. Propaganda pieces included many like these, in which Jewish people and anyone else he considered inferior were depicted in a negative light. Hitler also used propaganda to strengthen his people's nationalism, especially targeting the youth, who he believed to be the future of the Reich. Eugenics was another way that Hitler attempted to ensure a genetically pure master race. This pseudoscience implemented selective human breeding and the erasing of supposed inept peoples, such as Jews, homosexuals, gypsies, and the mentally handicapped. It also included the sterilization of hundreds of thousands of people whom the Nazis deemed mentally or physically unfit to further populate the world. Each technique was in an effort to conserve the master race Hitler believed to be the divine leaders on Earth. But the question remains of whether these horrible actions were taken because of the master race theory or just Hitler's greed for power and control.
Today, we own Germany. Tomorrow, the whole world.
Individual rights had to be, in some cases, maybe obliterated for the sake of the Nazi Party, the right that they valued the most.
Many people have learned that the Nazis performed all of their horrible deeds just because they wanted revenge for World War I and planned to abolish certain groups of people. While those details are definitely important influences, it is also evident that everyone sees a different side to the situation as well. The Aryan race may have honestly been brainwashed into believing that it actually was their God-given right to rule the world. Many members of this superior race were in accordance with the theory, in that they believed it was their responsibility to ensure the purity of the Aryan race. With this philosophy in mind, it would have seemed necessary to indulge in the various final solution programs that kept them in a position of authority. But it was at the hand of Adolf Hitler that so many people were involved in this widespread plan for supremacy. Because of that, it is clear that the Nazis were enacting their supposed rights and responsibilities as the master race on account of selfish actions taken by Hitler in his endeavors for ultimate power. Considering it all, Adolf Hitler was in fact a diabolical genius who used Nazi Germany and the master race theory for an ulterior purpose, in a scheme to rule the world.
Not to love the Führer is a great disgrace. So we Heil, Heil, right in the Führer's face. So we Heil, Heil.